Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello students, welcome back to the lecture series on women's writing. This is the lecture number 13. I know that there has been a lot of discussions previously regarding women and their place in the society. Today we are going to take it in a little bit different kind of setting, that is the setting of the honor. Where does honor come in this entire power politics play? This lecture today we are calling it the female body, seat of honor. So where does honor stand in our day-to-day life and how does female body come into the play? So let us move forward into the lecture and try to understand the significance of the woman's body in this play of honor. Now first of all we'll begin with a small paragraph which is about a person called Afzal Kohistani. This is an actual incident and you can look up on the internet about the details of this incident. We are going to have a small read of this paragraph. On 6th June 2018, a young man named Afzal Kohistani was shot dead in Abbottabad, Pakistan, for exposing the perpetrators of an act of honor killing in his tribe. Now here I would like to draw your attention to two words especially. One is honor, another is killing. What does killing has to do with honor? We know that in India there are several cases of honor killing and I am also aware of that, and you should also be, that the state of Haryana currently has the highest number of honor killings per year. So here, what does this particular phrase mean, honor killing? Honor killing is killing in the name of honor. When you see, for example, when you go around and you see that somebody is scolding, one person is scolding another person, that you should not have done that, it jeopardizes, it compromises the family honor. That makes a small suggestion that how honor is related to the behavior of a person. If, for example, you will see that often the males of the family, they say the women, they dictate the women of their family, the females of their family, not to go outside and not to go outside in short clothes or wearing makeup. That jeopardizes the family honor because in their eyes, the short clothes and makeup point towards something which is not socially granted. So in this case, these two words, especially the word killing, it becomes an action which the males of the society take. They take it so that they can preserve this honor. So this word is actually an oxymoronic word, whereas this particular thing is to be preserved and this particular thing is obviously destruction that is aimed at. In order to preserve, we are destroying. In order to preserve an idea, honor is of course an idea, we are destroying a person. Okay, and there is the second thing that I would like to draw your attention towards, that is the word tribe. What is the meaning of the word tribe? A tribe is a group of people belonging to a particular place and they have their own culture, their customs, traditions, all of these things. When you take into consideration these aspects and you add it to this particular duo of this word honor killing, you can get an idea that the entire societies All the societies of the world, they are in fact the bigger versions of a tribe, because wherever there is a society, there will be honor, that honor will need protection, thereby bringing about the instance of killing. Moving on to the next part of the paragraph, a video of Afzal's brothers and some women dancing and singing during a festival leaked into the internet in 2012. So Afzal was the brother. He had his sisters who were attending a marriage festival. In that marriage festival, somehow they came into contact with other people who were playing music. These women started dancing. Afzal recorded the entire thing and posted it into the internet. This is something we do very commonly nowadays. I'm sure you know that. It allegedly shamed the women's family. Now here, this word allegedly is very important, because it is something which is strictly related to the family, not the public. The public does not feel that these people must be ashamed. However, the family thinks it like that. They killed 3 of Afzal's brothers right away. So the family came and they killed the person called Afzal's brothers. I'm taking it from a little back. It allegedly shamed the women's family. Here the word allegedly is very important. Why do we think that the family is related to the entire killing and not the public? The public has no problem with the video of the dancing women in the marriage festival. It is a very common sight throughout the country, throughout the world in fact. But this family chose to relate to this incident of these dancing women as something which is very shameful. This is something we need to take into consideration. They killed 3 of Afzal's brothers right away. They thought that Afzal has done a mistake by recording the women's dancing. What the family of the women did, they came and abducted Afzal's brothers and killed them right away. The women were locked up, tortured for 3 months and finally executed. The family did not also consider their own women. They thought that the women allowed the filming of their act of dancing during a marriage festival. That is problematic for the family. They think that it is below the standard and something the family should be ashamed of. So they tortured. The brothers were killed instantly, but the women were tortured for 3 months and finally executed. After 3 months of torture, they were finally killed. Men accused of dancing to entertain women were immediately murdered. Along with the women, there were some men who were dancing and they were also murdered. The women's act of daring to sit back and be entertained by men earned physical violence and a slow and painful death. Now here is another thing. Not only that the fact that the women were viewing the dancing of the men, because some men were also dancing with the women. The fact that the men were dancing is itself very shameful to the society, because dancing is an act which is related to the women of the society. That should not have been the case with the man. The man should not have danced. The man should have sat back and enjoyed the entertainment provided by the women. Why did it go the other way around? That was the main problem of this entire thing. Be entertained by men. So that earned physical violence. The case was hushed up. So when this happened, I am telling you, this happened in Abbottabad. It is something of a hilly area and it is not related to the main part of the continent or subcontinent. Whenever you think of a place, a hilly area, you will find in your mind that it is not that developed like a city. It does not have as many police stations. It does not have as many post offices, communication centers, service centers. It is a little bit remote. There are villages rather than cities. In such an area, when such things happen, especially murdering and in this case honor killing, things are hushed up. They are locked under the cupboard, within the cupboard. They do not come to the light. So here also they tried to keep it a secret. Until the Vice News is a company which goes and finds news from all over the world, interviewed Afzal. Now here Afzal went to the public with this thing because he was afraid that he will also be killed like his brothers and also like the women who were all in that particular movie clip. Months before his death, and a documentary was released online. You can go and check on YouTube. There is a documentary available about this entire incident where Afzal is giving a sort of an interview and people are trying to find out what is happening. People, including the Jirga or head of their tribe, so the tribe Afzal belonged to, they have a head of the tribe, and that person is called Jirga, recognized the prevailing strict cultural impositions. Whoever the people were in that particular hilly area, they told the people of the news company that this part of the world has a separate culture. This culture does not allow women and men dancing, and especially men dancing to entertain women. A hidden camera filmed him dressed in muslin, wearing fashionable gold-rimmed glasses and referring to the punishment by drawing blood in case anyone disregarded their culture of honor. So what these news people did were that they hid a camera in their bag. They went to interview the Jirga and they filmed the conversation with the Jirga. The video revealed that the Jirga was dressed in a muslin, very, well-dressed person with gold-rimmed spectacles. That means that it is not a fact that the Jirga was something of a recluse. It was not. He was not cut off from the main style statements. He knew what is going on in the world, and still he chose to impose such restrictions on the society. It is a kind of hypocrisy though. So he said that the punishment of this kind of act is drawing blood. So whenever there is a cause for the shame of the tribe, there will be blood drawn from the human body. So finally what happened was that these people were killed and murdered. So this is an example of what we understand as honor killing. This is only a small example. Honor killing has lots of causes. Very frequent is that a boy has eloped with a girl, the girl has eloped with the boy, and the family feels ashamed. They go ahead, they capture the couple and they chop off their heads or they murder them. There are many incidents throughout the country because love marriages are not yet socially acceptable to many of the tribes in India. And by tribes, I do not mean the backward tribes. The forward tribes are the same. So what is the link between the concept of honor and violence? How does these two actually link? Let us try to understand that. There is a person called J.K. Campbell, and you will be very fascinated to know about what he has to say. He discusses in his anthropological studies. Anthropological studies is studies related to human race, human tribe, human behavior, all of these things on honor. How does human behave when it comes to the concept of honor? Family and economy in the Greek mountain herding communities. So he has a speciality. He did not study all the people of the world. He went to the Greek mountain communities, that is in Greece. He went and experimented and observed how the people of that area reacted to the concept of honor. In the Greek mountain regions, very similar to the Hindu Kush mountain regions of Kohistan, in this novel we will be discussing. The novel's name is The Pakistani Bride. We are going to discuss this in a very short time, and this is just an introduction. Where the mainland laws are ineffectual, the tribes inevitably prioritize securing one's reputation for severity, that is, one is not to be trifled with. What does these words mean? Let me break it down to a very simpler form. These words actually mean that when it comes to the tribal communities, what they do is that If you are going to do some harm to me, then I will consider it as a breach of honor. If we respect each other, if we give honor to each other, we will never think of harming you. But if I think that I want to harm you, that means you are doing away with the honorable act. You are trying to harm me, that means you are dishonorable. In that case, I will be very severe and I will take revenge. If you hurt a member of my family, I will go and hurt a member of your family. How did this situation come to the forefront? This situation came because there was nothing called as law. Law is something which is very modern. There was nothing called the Constitution. There was nothing called the Indian Penal Code. In their case, it will be Greek Penal Code, but there was nothing to restrain the people of that particular place. Nobody had the right to dictate the behavior of those people. In that case, they came up with this kind of arrangement that if one person harms another person, if one person steals from another person, if one person kills another person, that will be considered a breach of honor. So one is not to be trifled with. After J.K. Campbell, this person is the first to study the Greek mountain tribes. His study was taken up by Nisbet and Cohen. They also started studying this particular person and his studies and study further. They view honor as an idea initially constructed to ensure self-defense. That is, I am protecting myself by abiding by the laws or the conduct or the codes of honor. Retribution means it's an act of revenge. That is, if you think that an injustice has been done to you, you are going to take some actions that will be called as retribution. Follows the slightest violation of the culture of honor. If there is a culture of honor and you are not following it, there will be retribution. I will take an action and I will take it against you, I will be harming you. And functions as a preemptive strike and warning to the community. The community, now here it is not only a person and another person. Here it can be two communities, separate tribes, separate races altogether. They can think that harm has been done to their community. They can treat it as an act of dishonor. Self-defense becomes very broadly defined as preservation of one's person. Person means one body, one's family, the bodies, the human bodies around that person which constitute the person's family, one's home. There is more people in the home than in the family. One's honor. So finally, everything, see all these things, one's person, that is the body, one's family, one's home, and everything constitutes the domain of honor. Now, this home can also be substituted with the word community, can be also substituted with the word colony, group, country, everything. We are very familiar with India-Pakistan war going on every time. We are now, India-China war is also going on, and we consider ourselves as honorable person and that person as honorable person. So whenever there will be a war declared, it will be an official war. But if there is something called dishonorable act, for example, one country is invading another country without that country's knowledge, so that is considered as dishonorable, and therefore there will be more surgical strikes like India did. That is an act of retribution. Okay, moving forward, this is the novel which was written by Bapsi Sidhwa, and this particular novel, you can see that I have put them in parentheses because it was first published only as The Bride. Later on, maybe in order to make it more marketable, Bapsi Sidhwa changed the name to Pakistani Bride. I will be shortly referring to the story, which is given in points. You can refer to the entire text. You can read the novel. It is actually a very good novel. Zaitun and her family boards a train to Pakistan. Qasim rescues Zaitun. This train is attacked and Zaitun's family perishes in the attack. Qasim rescues Zaitun and brings her up in memory of his dead daughter. So there is another person called Qasim who happens to be there when the train is attacked, and he finds the small child. Zaitun is 5 years old here. He finds Zaitun and rescues that small child because Qasim had a daughter who died very young. In order to relive the memory of his dead daughter, Qasim adopts Zaitun. When she grows up, Qasim marries her to his Kohistani mountain-dwelling nephew, Sakhi. So Sakhi is a person who lives in a mountain. And this particular person does not belong to a mountain area. Qasim brought up Zaitun in Lahore. Lahore is mostly the area where there are no mountains and it is kind of a city area. So it is quite modern in many aspects. But when it comes to mountain dwelling people, it is not that modern. I told you beforehand that whenever there is a mountain region, first you think is villages. You do not think of big buildings or big shopping malls or railway stations, post offices, nothing of that sort is available over there. Sakhi commits to daily act of domestic violence. Now Sakhi is brought up in the mountain area. He does not know the rule of the mainland. He is not aware of the rule of law. He is only aware of the culture of violence and culture of honor, which we just discussed before. So what he does is, he commits to the act of domestic violence on a daily basis. Every day he beats up Zaitun for small mistakes, not even mistakes. He finds excuses to beat up his newly wedded wife. And Zaitun, who had been brought up in the mainland, has never seen this kind of violence. She is not aware of a culture like this. Zaitun runs away. This is a very interesting part in this story. When you read the novel, in fact, you will find that this small sentence over here is itself a big act of resistance. The entire second half of the novel covers how Zaitun escapes the rugged terrain of the Hindu Kush mountain, because there is no communication, there is no proper roads, no sanitation available, not even police stations, nothing. So Zaitun cannot go and complain to a person that my husband is beating me. But she was raised in a society where things like that happened and you could go and complain. Her father never beat her up. Her other family members never did something like that. So this is unacceptable. Now let us consider just for a moment whether it is right or wrong, because all we do is read a novel and try to think whether it is right or whether it is wrong. Here there is a problem. When you consider right or wrong, it becomes a matter of ethics, which we should not be finding when we are reading literature. Literature, when you read, of course it gives you an insight into human condition, but it also gives you an insight about the culture of the people over there. Of course, it is a barbaric culture. When a woman is under stress, is beaten up, is physically violated, it is a barbaric culture. But it is also true that if a man would have been in that place, it would also be a barbaric culture. It is not a bad culture just because a woman is being beaten up. The entire thing about violence is bad, because a person should always be respected and should never have to face any physical abuse from others. But in this case, we see Zaitun faces that kind of physical abuse. If it would have been a boy, the act would have been equally bad. So all the male members of their community set off at once to hunt for Zaitun. The entire second portion of the story revolves around these 2 points: how Zaitun runs away from the family and the subsequent act of the family members, that is the mountain dwelling people, the families of Sakhi. They get together and they launch a search party throughout the hills, the untraceable paths of the Hindu Kush mountains, just to hunt for a woman who has run away. Because according to them, how dare a woman run away from her husband? It is the culture over there that if a woman runs away, it sets a bad example to the other women who are suffering the same fate in that particular region. If this goes unpunished, then all the women will eventually realize how bad the culture is, how barbaric, how backward the culture is. Everybody will start revolting, and that is something which these people do not want. So they want to rule the land by the paternal law, that whatever the male members of the family say, that is going to be taken into consideration. If the women members or the female members, they say something, that is completely unacceptable. If they try to even run away, that is unacceptable, because if you run away, you are dead. And these people, let me tell you, these people are hunting for Zaitun not to take her back to the family, but to kill her. And the entire story, you will find that there are instances where Zaitun comes to know that people have been killed for the same. Now let us discuss the power dynamics. First, before moving on to this topic, I will tell you what dynamics is. Dynamics is the idea of flowing. If a person, a particular thing is in motion, it has some kind of activity within itself, or it is doing some kind of activity, we called it dynamic. If something is still, for example, the entire, suppose this thing, it is not a dynamic thing, it is just a small pen holder, it is static. But my hands are dynamic, it is completely moving all the time when I address you. So this is dynamic. So power is also like that. Power, wielding power over somebody, power flows from one person to another. It also flows backwards. So let us see what kind of power relations we have. This particular philosopher, Michel Foucault, you will read, if you go on reading about him, you will find many interesting theories that he has given about the society, about human behavior. There is a very famous book by Michel Foucault. It is called The Archaeology of Knowledge. I hope that you go and have a look at it. It has given many interesting theories to all the historians, the theoreticians of the world to work on. So this particular person says, he observes the performance of the sovereign exercising his power. The sovereign means the all-powerful. Whoever is the all-powerful, be it a family head, be it a king, be it the head of the state, of the country, that is called the sovereign, because that person has all the power. Exercising his power over life only by exercising his right to kill, or by refraining from killing, the right to take life or let live. So how do a person, a sovereign like that, show that they have the power over another person? They can show it by letting a person live. Okay, you go, I let you live. That means that person has right over that person's life. If that person wanted, he would have easily commanded that this person should be killed. In that case, it will be very clear that this person has the entire power. But both the cases are equally true. If I can take life, if I can give you your life back, then I have the power over your life. That is how power dynamics work. How do we connect it to the condition of honor that we are studying right now? If I let you live, that is what is happening, right? In the Pakistani Bride also we saw In the case of Afzal Kohistani also we saw whatever the head of that tribe considered, that was done. That head of the tribe had the power over the body of another human being, which is unconstitutional. That is, in India, nobody has the power over another person's body unless you have done a criminal act, which is again defined by the laws. All the laws of the Indian Penal Code, all the laws, the articles that have been written down in the Constitution of India, all of these things have been written down and it acts equally for everybody. It will not be that, okay, you are a woman, your law is different, you are a man, your law is different. No. That kind of inequality is not practiced in our country. But in the tribal area, in the tribal rural areas where where these kind of laws have not been forcibly implemented, laws are implemented, and in order to implement, let me explain to you what is the meaning of the word implement. Implement is you make that law work in that particular area. How do you do that? You ask the police force, you ask the government, the small governmental body which is over there in that particular area, that if something like this happens, you follow this law. So in that area, that particular body representing the government will make sure that whenever a case like that comes up, we will take up this law and do the justice. We will share this information with the people. So coming back to power dynamics, this kind of power that is flowing throughout the society, including the implementation of law, because the bigger body is telling the smaller body, the government of India says to the Gram Panchayat that you have to follow this law. This is also a flowing of power. So power is a dynamic thing. Now the Gram Panchayat has the power and the Gram Panchayat is going to implement that kind of law in the society. In the culture of honor, in the culture of violence that we have been studying right now, the power over another person's body is also the power dynamics, because that person who is going to lose his or her life has been deprived of that power. His power to choose, her power to choose his or her own death has been taken away. So power flows forward, power also flows backward. The female body, this is the second point, and this is a quote from Judith Butler, and I have talked about Butler a lot in the previous as well as I am going to talk about the same person in the upcoming lectures. She has a very interesting thing to say. The female body that is freed, the female body which does not have nobody has power over that particular person, is freed from the shackles of the paternal law. The person who is freed from all these problems may well prove to be yet another incarnation of that law. That law means the paternal law. Paternal law, I just talked about it, that in a society, when the father figure, when the male members make the law, we call it the paternal law. Posing as subversive but operating in the service of that law's self-amplification and proliferation. Whenever a person who is free from that law, that person does not show that particular society has no paternal law. It shows that it has a paternal law, but this person is not a part of the paternal law. So if a person is there who does not have, who has the freedom to choose what happens to his or her own body, makes a point that some people do not have that freedom. So if this person thinks that, okay, I have shown the world that I have overcome the paternal law, this person is actually proving that there is a paternal law to be overcome to begin with. So this is the main idea. If there is A, which is the particular person who is free from the law, then there is a B, and B constitutes of all the people who are within the paternal law, who are following the patriarchal law. So if A says that, okay, I am free, that means there are people who are not free. So this entire population belonging to the B category are not free. So that is what Judith Butler says, that her own existence, if a woman says I am free from the laws and chains and shackles of the society, that means the society has chains, shackles and all kinds of bad things in it. It is necessary to take into account the full complexity and subtlety of that law and to cure ourselves of the illusion of a true body beyond the law. If subversion is possible, it will be subversion from within the terms of the law. So the last sentence is very important, but before we go to the last sentence, let me also talk about the previous ones. It is necessary to take into account the full complexity and subtlety of the law. We must understand the laws first. Somebody poses a kind of restriction on your behavior and you say, no, I don't want to follow this, I hate all the laws, I want to break out. But that is not the way. Judith Butler says, you first go and study the law. What is the law? Why is it made? How can we defeat the purpose of the law? Is it still relevant today? Because maybe some laws which have been built 2000, 3000 years ago may not be relevant in today's world. So instead of fighting the law, go and study the law first. You go and understand the law first. Because if you understand the law, you will be able to make the people who have made the law realize that this law is not going to work. So instead of resisting blindly, find reason, find logic, find education first. Once you are educated enough, once you know all the laws, then you will be able to give a particular account why these laws are not relevant in today's world. It will be a subversion from within the terms of the law. So if the law says, okay, a woman is not allowed to go somewhere, first you say that, okay, I'm not going somewhere, but let me ask you a question, why should not I go somewhere? So then the law starts to describe itself. You should not go somewhere because the time is bad, the situations are bad, there is no communication, all these details come. When you have all these details, you can reason with these details. You can say, no, the time is all right, I'm going with a parent, I'm going with a friend. You can also say that there is a communication available. You can reason out, you can logically explain why this law is not going to work. So that is the entire argument of Judith Butler, that instead of blindly resisting it, you must first study it and try to destroy the law from within the law, not by going outside it. Because if you try to destroy something from the outside will be destroyed, but the inside will remain intact. Okay. Now, our next topic is variations of honor. We will study what honor means in different parts of the world. It is a very interesting study. I hope you find also it is a very sad and disappointing and disheartening from all the respects you can imagine, especially concerning a female body. In the rape camps, so something existed in the past which is called as the rape camps. So camps were set up. We have heard about NCC camps, we have heard about army camps, we have heard about summer camps, but there is something which existed called as the rape camps of Bosnia-Herzegovina. It is a country. Women were forcibly impregnated to inject the Serbian race among the Utasha people. There is a conflict of the race. The Utasha people, the Utasha is a race and Serbian is a race. The Serbians tried to wipe out the entire population of the Utasha people by impregnating their women with the Serbian genetic information, with the Serbian DNA. So that is something which needs to be, to plan something like this, you need to be really cold-hearted and you are a villainous character. You are thinking of removing the race, the entire ethnicity, the culture of those people, the language, the literature, the music of those people by simply forcing their women to bear Serbian children. Thereby you think that their DNA will go away. So what kind of bad masterminding is that? That I leave it to you for understanding. So women's body, now let us come to the discussion of what is happening to the women. The women are being treated as simple machines for breeding children. Their body is not their own. They are imprisoned, they are left in the dark, and they are forcibly raped so that their children become Serbians. And once they become Serbians, it is an honorable thing. Let me tell you, the second point is far more dangerously interesting. The women who conceived were considered as the upholders of honor and the reproducers of the community. Now, among these women who are being raped, the women who actually conceived a child, they were considered honorable. Now, when you have a Serbian child inside you, your body becomes pure. Now you are destined for honor, you are given good food, you are given good place to sleep, you are given a family to live with. So the entire system changes abruptly once you have a Serbian child, and provided with meals and privileges. Here, a woman loses her individuality and becomes a reproducing body and the seat of masculinity. She is not the sex she is designed to be, but rather the masculine sex in core, parodying in the mode of otherness. Her body is no longer a female body. It is simply a container. She is not the female sex that we refer to. She just becomes a sexless body, a container, because there is nothing of her person, because she is a Utasha people and there is nothing related to her family. She is no longer a person. She is now completely a container for the Serbian sperms. So this is the kind of discrepancy. The women who did not bear the children were killed, but the women who conceived were treated with honor. So in other parts of the world you see that honor has different notions. Honor is also related to bearing child. Honor is also related to scoring good marks in the 10th or 12th exams. That is something which we can relate to. Our parents, the competitive world around us, the parents think that, okay, my child has scored 90% marks, it is a very honorable fact. But if a parent sees that his or her child is not scoring even 80%, oh, that is a loss of honor, that is very sad. So honor has its variation, but when it comes to the female body, it is much more dangerous and life-taking. Let me take you to some other incidents which will clear the entire perspective, that is of honor killing going on around the world. Farzana Parveen, and very interestingly, I'm not reading now, very interestingly, all of these cases of honor killing, they have been mostly reported from India and parts of these other parts of the same subcontinent, because in Western countries or in the northeastern countries, honor killing is lot less. A pregnant Farzana Parveen, a pregnant woman of 25, she was aged 25, was mutilated. That is, her limbs were cut and her body was cut, that is mutilating, and killed. First her limbs were cut and then she was killed by her relatives in front of the Lahore court. Now this is very ironic. The body which is supposed to dictate the rule of the land, the law of the land, in front of that very structure, in front of that very podium from where the government should be deciding the laws of the land, she was mutilated and killed when she married a man after her own persuasions instead of her own cousin whom the family had chosen as her groom. So the family had plans to marry that girl, the girl's cousin. They thought that that person is going to be the family's son-in-law. But the girl wanted to marry somebody else. It was a love marriage. She went and married that person. Then she became pregnant, and when the relatives found that out, they went to find her somewhere. They found her in front of the Lahore court, mutilated her and then killed her while she was carrying the child. Second point, honor is always lived out openly. Honor is not something. So from this particular incident, let us draw some conclusions. Honor is always lived out openly in the public space. There is nothing called honor in the private space. Before other people, in countries where honor killings occur regularly, perpetrators means those who are doing it, who are arrested, often proudly display their handcuffs, as many believe that killing for the sake of individual or collective honor is heroic. Have you seen places where people who are in their handcuffs, they are raising their handcuffs in front of the camera, they are raising their handcuffs in front of the mob, saying, see, I have done a very good deed, but yet I am chained, this is such injustice. Honor is not something which is practiced inside the house, inside your own space mostly. It is something which is displayed in front of everybody. See, I have been dishonored by that person, so I go and shoot that person. My daughter has been dishonored by that person, so I go and kill that person. And it is a public act. They never do it in private. Only very recently, maybe 2-3 months back, there was an incident. It was very popular on Instagram that a brother is killing his own sister because the sister had an affair with another boy. The brother thinks that he has done a very good job, and that entire video was leaked on Instagram. That person, somebody else recorded it while the brother was stabbing the sister with a knife. The entire thing was recorded and put on the internet, where the brother is saying that he has done a very good job, that the sister deserved to die because that is a dishonorable act, and he had no iota of grief or regret or remorse. These two people, Menon and Bhashin, they went to interview a lot of people. There were many people who crossed the boundaries of India and Pakistan when the two were declared separate countries. What happened during that entire thing, we all know very well. There was massacre, there was blood, there was entire incidents of families jumping off the bridges into the river, the families being butchered by other families, and all in the name of religion. The Hindus and the Muslims and the Sikhs, all were fighting against each other at that particular point of time. It was chaos. So Menon and Bhashin went and interviewed these people who survived the partition of India. What they found out was really interesting. Female homicides means murder, by male members of Hindu families as an act of upholding honor when Qabilis attacked Muzaffarabad in 1947. The Qabilis are the mountain tribes and the Muslim people of the land, and they came and attacked the Hindu families. So what the Hindu families did was kill their daughters and wives and sisters first. They went and just killed them, because if they survived and they were raped and violated by the Muslim people, the Qabilis, then it will be dishonorable to their family. It is not a matter whether they would live or die, but it is a matter that they will be very much disappointed. Their family will have no prestige. An element of detachment in the men. What happened? Menon and Bhashin went. They asked the person who survived that, what happened? Tell me, what happened? Were you happy to kill your, of course this is not the question, they said something like, what happened, tell us the incident, how do you remember it? Now what Menon and Bhasin finds out is that they were detached. They did not have so much emotional integrity, so much emotional content to begin with. They did not think that they had done anything wrong. While recounting their memories of mayhem towards their female members of the family, they thought that whatever we did was right. They were not engaged at all. They put up such a behavior which showed that they were clearly disengaged or mentally very far from their female family members. The story is told, the story means whatever the incidents happened and the people who lived in that particular moment, they told their own story. So story is told in the heroic mode, the heroic that we were talking earlier. They told it in such a mode as if they have done a very great job, a good thing. The singular and extraordinary instance of doing a kinswoman to death, kinswoman is a person related to one's own kin or family, is elevated to supreme and glorious sacrifice. I have killed my sister, it is a great sacrifice that I have done to save the honor of my family. I have thrown my mother into the river, and it is a great sacrifice that I have done by saving the honor of the family. That is how honor has been treated during the partition period. Most men and women we spoke to were agreed, all of them agreed, that honor for losing or preserving, if you are losing your honor or you are keeping it intact, if you are protecting your honor, was located in the body of women. Saving honor versus destroying the culture of honor, that is something we are going to discuss. These are the texts that you can have a look at. This is a novel, this is a short story, and this is again another novel, and you will see how the honor dynamics also work in these novels. We also talked about Pakistani Bride by Bapsi Sidhwa. There the entire novel is on honor killing. Here Bertha in Jane Eyre is locked up because she is mad. Now this particular person, the female person, she is locked up in the attic, that is the uppermost floor of the house. She is not allowed to meet any family members, any visitors, because if somebody sees her, the entire family will be ashamed. They will think that, oh, it is a loss of our honor. If anyone sees her, it will be dishonorable for the family. That is in Jane Eyre. When you read the yellow wallpaper, James, Jane's husband too, it will be an apostrophe, Jane's husband too hides her from the public view and locks her up in a room due to her descent into madness. Jane thinks that my husband is taking care of me by taking me to a different house, by giving me a different room, but what Jane's husband is actually doing is locking her up because she is becoming mad. She is descending into madness. Her mental state is not stable and therefore she has to be kept away from people, otherwise it is a matter of the reputation of the male member of the family, that is Jane's husband. Again, in The Color Purple, a novel by Alice Walker, Sally is physically abused by her father during her childhood and yet she keeps quiet about it due to maintaining her honor. She wanted to maintain her honor and therefore she did not speak of it to anybody. She only thought that okay, that is something which happened in my childhood, I must outgrow it, and now I have become older, I am more experienced and I can live my life on my own terms. So honor is something which is inside the woman's body. If the woman, the female member of the family suffers in any way, then the honor of the family is compromised. Here is a very distinguishing example of verbal abuse and honor. You must have heard about verbal abuses in everyday life. You go out on the streets, you go to a tea stall, a repair shop, whichever that the rural public, uneducated people frequent. In those places you go, you will find that in their own mother tongues, especially in these parts, of course, you will find it more frequently in the northern India than in the southern India. They use swear words. They use what we call as slangs, but slangs have a different definition. But they use verbal abuses, and all the words that they use in order to ventilate their anger, all those words are mostly related to the body of women. Language is the means of bringing an idea into discourse. If there is an idea and you want it to come into the everyday use, you use your language. Honor is tied to women's reproductive organs. So whenever you are trying to hurt somebody, you refer to the women's reproductive organs in a variation of words, and thereby you want to come up with something which will make you dishonorable. Dishonor, verbal abuse relating to defiling the body of a woman related to the person. If a male person tries to humiliate, if a male person tries to humiliate another male person, that male person is going to speak something bad about the body of the other male person's family member, female family member. That is how the entire verbal abuse, circle of verbal abuse works. Language as a tool for conditioning and repetition. Now, if this verbal abuse, if this use of verbal abuse is repeated every day in front of every people, be it male or female, what kind of effect will it have on the minds of the community? They will think, oh, a woman's body, it's bad because it is used in the verbal abuses. Because when you are frustrated, you use words which reflect the mentality of the society. The society's mentality is always surrounding the reproductive organs of the women. That is something very disgusting. So women's body, that is not pure, that is always needs protection, it needs to be preserved. If anybody comes and says something like that, you think of it as dishonorable. Now, women's writing and realism. In all the works that you will be reading, you will find such words. You will find words which are swear words, which you cannot pronounce in the public, because of course, when with education we start learning that if we use these kind of words, we are actually dishonoring, or we are actually discrediting the status of women in our society. We are dismissing them altogether. So you stop using these kind of words. But in case of women's literature, you will find these words coming up frequently. And that is a sorry case. That is a sad case, because whenever these kind of words come, although you link to the society, although you link very well to the realistic world around you, but you also repeat it, and thereby you establish it again. So in order to round up, we can say that whenever you think of honor next time you study any text, you must try to understand the power dynamics, underlying power dynamics. You must understand how the male and the female characters are talking to each other, how are they getting involved with each other, what kind of conversation are they having, and all of these things will point towards the fact about the power dynamics in that novel. It will set the tone of the novel to the exact pitch of honor that you are looking for. Thank you very much for being here with me today. See you in the next lecture.